All right, looks like we're live everywhere. Good evening, everyone. I'm back live again. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration. Have a boutique immigration law firm in sunny South Florida. And we work with companies who are sponsoring employees who need work authorization and work papers. And we work with family members, U.S. citizens who are wanting to sponsor their family members for green cards, specifically wanting to sponsor their fiancés, spouses, dependent children, or parents. I wanted to come live and chat with y'all some more. We were on, I think, last night before last, I can't quite remember. Sometime this weekend we were on live. And so I'm back. And so I also wanted to give you guys some tips and talk to you a little bit about what's happening in immigration. So the first thing that I want to chat to y'all about is if you have a criminal history and you are now looking to move to that next step in your process. So if you're looking to get your non-immigrant visa, maybe an H, an L, an O, maybe you're looking to get a green card, whether it's an employment-sponsored green card or a family-sponsored green card, or you're looking to take that next step to U.S. citizenship. If you have something in your criminal history, even if it is done and completed, and if you had to pay a fine, or if you had to do community service, or if you were incarcerated and you're now out, even if your case is completely done, even if you had probation, let's say you were incarcerated, you were released, you had probation, your probation's done, like you're done. You were done with that issue in the criminal justice system, right? But you're moving to that next piece of your immigration journey. So again, whether it's getting a non-immigrant visa so that you can come work, whether it's applying for a green card, whether it's applying for citizenship, if you have a criminal history whatsoever at all, even if the judge said it's expunged, even if the judge said you don't ever have to talk about this anymore, that does not apply for immigration. So make sure that your immigration attorney knows that. Even if it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 2 days ago, make sure that we know. Because when we know, we can plan ahead. It's when we don't know about your criminal history that we can't plan ahead. So if we ask, please don't say no. Please don't say nothing. Please don't say it's not a big deal. Even if the judge said, you don't have to talk about it, or it's not, it's, it shouldn't follow you. We need to know about it as immigration attorneys so that we can figure out how or if it will have an impact on your case, on your process. And it's always better for us to know this information sooner rather than later. So let us know. I have seen visas be denied. Cases get delayed. And so we want to sort of avoid that, right? Like we want to have a strategy going into your case so that we can do that analysis, figure out, what we can do. And be ready to be flexible and pivot and change and move and do all the things, especially now, given that our immigration rules and policies are constantly changing. But if we have the facts, then, we can certainly help pivot and move and change. So that's like a big thing that we've had to sort of contend with recently. If you are applying for U.S. citizenship, you have had a green card for at least 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen, or 5 years if you're not married to a U.S. citizen. One of the things that we have to show is that you are an individual of good moral character. So in general, very, very generally, good moral character, the Immigration Service is looking to say that you don't have a criminal history, or if you do, it's so long ago. And you haven't continued to do the same thing over and over and over again. and get arrested for the same thing over and over and over again, the Immigration Service wants to see, according to the law, that you're a person of good moral character. So previously, what we would look at was the absence of anything that went against good moral character. So we would look at the absence of a criminal history, absence of a criminal record. We would make sure that you were, if you haven't paid your taxes in full for whatever reason, but you were on a payment plan, that was helpful to see. We would, if you have children, we want to make sure that you are paying child support if your children don't live with you. Even if there's not a formal court issued child support agreement, the Immigration Service wants to see that you are in fact sending money to the other parent or taking care of your child in some way, shape, or form. Are you paying for school? Are you paying for after, for camp? Are you paying for, are you sending money for groceries? Are you sending money for clothes? Like what's happening, right? So the Immigration Service wants to see all that, right? They want to see that all that's happening. So now it's not just the absence of things that meet good moral character. Now they're saying that they want to affirmatively see evidence that you have good moral character. So what does that mean? So that may mean that if you have been volunteering at, a local nonprofit, or you are maybe you've been the classroom mom in your kid's school for the past 10 years or what have you, or whatever. Maybe you're a coach of a little league team in your community. Those are things that typically wouldn't come up in a citizenship interview, but now they may, right? Now we may start to, when we file, we may start to affirmatively put in that information that shows that you are considered to have good moral character. So keep that in mind if you're applying for U.S. citizenship. And the other thing I really wanted to talk about, and really I talk about ad nauseum. I know you guys are tired of this, but your social media feeds. I'm all for people having social media, clearly. Like, I'm going live on social media, so I'm all for social media. So I'm never going to tell someone, get off social media just for sake of your immigration process. But what I will say is the Immigration Service will look at your social media. They will do a deep dive into your social media. They want to know, one, if you were saying anything that is, sort of anti-American, against the current administration. These are some of the things that they're looking for. So it is your social media account. It is your decision how you manage that account, what you put on that account. But the Immigration Service will absolutely look at it. They will also absolutely hold up your visa application if they can't see it. So when you are filling out your visa application forms, your DS-160 for a non-immigrant and your DS-260 for a green card, they are affirmatively asking for your social media handles. And so if you provide your social media handle, but your profile is not open to the public, that could in fact slow down your processing. It could absolutely slow down your processing. So if you are super private and you don't want anybody looking at your social media, that is a decision that you're going to have to make when it comes to getting your visa. So that's not a decision that I can make for you as a lawyer. That is absolutely a decision that you have to make on your own. But just know that the Immigration Service is looking at your social media feeds. They absolutely are. So keep that in mind as we post away, we go live, we forward things, we repost things. Just keep in mind that is being looked at by immigration. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. I wanted to remind you of that. That is sometimes an issue for folks. So I am here to answer questions. If you guys have any questions for me, about immigration in general, about U.S. immigration in general. While I am an attorney, I'm not your specific attorney, so I can't answer case-specific questions, but I can certainly help you understand the immigration rules and how they may impact you. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I will answer them. And I'll give you guys a couple minutes to put some questions in the chat. Let me scroll. I think I saw a few come in. Someone's asking me, what is the petty offense exemption for citizenship? Petty theft exemption? Is that what you're thinking of? Maybe? Tell me more about what you're thinking. I think you mean the petty theft exemption. Hello, Fab. How are you? Good to see you too. Sorry, hello, Fab 2. I forgot the 2. Why would it take over 3 years to get an answer? An answer on what? Tell me more. Like, what are we waiting on an answer for? But in general, 3 years is a long time. But I don't know what you mean in sort of an answer. I was going to say green card. So are you saying that you have already had your green card interview? Is this employment-based interview or employment-based green card? Is it, are we talking a family-based green card? So the green card process, if we were talking an employment-based green card, depending on where you're from, and depending on what category you're in, if you're EB1, 2, or 3, green card application can take well over 3 years. If we're talking and for an employment-based green card, it can take that long because there's 3 different parts to some of the applications. First, we work with the Department of Labor, then we work with the USCIS for the employment side, then we work with USCIS again for the individual side for their for either consular processing or their adjustment of status. So that can certainly take a while, that whole process, that 3-part process. Green card, yes, me and my wife are married. So if you're married, I don't actually know why it's taking 3 years. Reasons I have seen in the past for applications taking sort of past the current processing times. Although I will say this about the current processing times, the I-130 alone right now, I've seen it taking as up to like between 12 and 15 months. So there's that. And that's just one part of the application. Although I've also seen applications moving, some applications I've seen move fairly quickly right now. So now might be a great time to file for some folks. Married. So reasons that I've seen applications take a long time, we'll say past the current processing times. When I say long, that's what I mean, past the current processing times. So I have seen criminal charges in the past for the beneficiary as a reason for cases sort of lingering and CIS taking their time to adjudicate them. I have seen where files get lost. Nobody ever likes to hear that. I know nobody ever likes to hear that, but we're all human. I've seen, I have had cases where they know where a file was. They just didn't know, right? And it happens. So that's a thing of note. Always make sure that you have a copy of what was filed, right? Let me try to think of some other reasons why cases have taken a long time. And sometimes, quite honestly, cases take a long time and they shouldn't. Like, so if your file is lost or your file is sitting on someone's desk or is fallen behind a filing cabinet, um, like it shouldn't. If it is beyond processing times, I would reach out to immigration. And I've reached out to immigration before on behalf of my clients and said, hey, we are beyond normal processing times. What's going on? Sometimes all the immigration service needs is a little nudge. Sometimes they just need a little nudge for them to move the case forward. But I always tell people when you are nudging the immigration service to move your case forward, I think nudging under certain circumstances is totally fine, but nudge with realistic expectations. Just because I send a note to immigration and say, hey, what's going on with this case, doesn't mean that we're always going to come back with an approval, right? So that is also something to understand. But if 3 years is past the processing time in your particular jurisdiction, then I would send a note to CIS and say, hey, what's going on? Yeah, I have also seen instances where there was an extensive criminal history that was not disclosed. um, sometimes unfortunately that happens as well. But yeah, I mean, I've seen people put into administrative processing, and there is no time limit on administrative processing. So I've seen that happen. And administrative processing is tough. It's tough to be in administrative processing because the government doesn't tell you why. They don't tell you why. They don't really tell you what they're looking for. So that's also tough. So those are some reasons why your case could be taking over 3 years to get a decision. But again, I don't know sort of where you are in the process. But those are some things that I have seen, that my colleagues have also seen in the past. What else do we have here? What's the waiting time on an I-130 for a child who is overseas? I-130s now their I-130s right now are taking a while. I think they're about 12 to 15 months. But if you go to USCIS.gov, and I don't know if you know this, so I'm going to kind of walk you through this, but if you go to USCIS.gov on the home page, if you scroll down, they organize everything in boxes. So there is a box that says manage your case. So if you click the second link in that box, you get to click that second link. You'll get to check processing times, and you can select the form. It's the first thing you need to select. So you click I-130, you click the next one, and it's, whatever your particular category is: U.S. citizen filing for married son or daughter, U.S. citizen filing for brother or sister, permanent resident filing for a spouse or child under 21. So whatever your particular category is, you click that, and then you click field office or service center, because I-130s are processed inside the U.S. Those are processed by USCIS. So then you click the service center where your case is currently being processed. Then you click get processing time, and it will give you a processing time. The processing time that it shows you, from my understanding, I can't remember how long ago they said this, but it was essentially for 70, I think, to 80% of the cases that were in that same case type. So that means there are going to be cases that are outside of that particular processing time. So if they say the processing time is, let's say, 2.5 months, although I don't know that anything is 2.5 months, but let's just say if it's 2.5 months and your case is taking 3.5 months or 5 months, yes, you're technically outside of processing times. But again, the processing times are really only for about 70 to 80% of the caseload that they have in that same type of case. So, yeah. So if you think there's something wrong with the case, you're welcome to reach out. We can kind of see what we see and see what's happening. I'm happy to do that. But the USCIS website, although I understand for some folks it's a little difficult to navigate, I navigate it all day, every day. But if you go to the processing times, that will kind of give you a good sense of what the actual processing times are for your particular type of case. So I hope that was helpful. And then for anything good products, you are welcome. I hope that answer was helpful about a spousal green card. What other questions do we have, folks? What other questions do we have? Thank you for the glitter badge. I appreciate that. I do appreciate it. What other questions do y'all have for me this evening? Let me see. And just so you know, y'all, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Just so we're all on the same page. What other questions do y'all have for me? And my firm works with folks that are all over the United States. The firm is based in Florida, but we work with clients that are all over the United States. So just if you're not in Florida, that doesn't mean that we can't work with you. We certainly can. And we work with clients that are all over the globe. So we work domestically and internationally. So if you want to work with us, you can just click the link in the bio and we will get you started. But what other questions do y'all have for me? I'll give it a minute or so, and then if I don't see any more questions, then we can always log off for the evening. But I will be back tomorrow. Look at my calendar. I think we'll probably come on around 7 o'clock, 7 Eastern time tomorrow. What else do y'all have for me? Any other questions? What you got? Do you ever work on EB2 NIW cases? I sure do. We do lots of employment-based cases. We do H's, L's, O's, EB1s, EB2s, EB3s, TNs. So yeah, we do a lot of we do handle EB2 NIW cases, and I actually really like those. They're super. I like to call them creative, quite honestly. No two are ever the same. So we do absolutely work on EB2 NIW cases. So if you've got questions on that, or you want to, have a consult, see if you qualify for an EB2, feel free to click the link. Happy to chat with you about that. What other questions do y'all have? What other questions do y'all have for me? My water bottle's very squeaky. All right, any other questions? I don't see any more questions, y'all. So we are going to log off for tonight, but we'll be back tomorrow around 7 p.m. And we'll talk more about U.S. immigration and how we can help you. Hold on. Did I see a random question come in? I did not. All right. So I am Carol Williams, again with Williams Immigration. We'll be back tomorrow evening at 7. Eastern, since I'm in Florida. So we'll be back tomorrow at 7 Eastern. Feel free to click the link in the bio and set up a consult if you all need some assistance with immigration. We are here to help. But we will be back tomorrow. Have a good rest of your night.